the whole truth and nothing but the truth under penalty for perjury. Okay, thanks.
Hi, good morning.
Good morning.
Please tell us your name and spell it for the record.
My name is Amanda Isett, Amanda Isett.
Great, thank you. And what organization do you work for?
I work for the Michigan State Police.
And your job title?
I'm a forensic scientist in the Northville Laboratory in the latent print unit.
And how long have you worked there?
I've worked for the Michigan State Police since February of 2017, and specifically in the latent print unit since August of 2019.
Okay. And what about your educational background?
I earned a Bachelor of Science degree in neuroscience from the University of Michigan in 2013, and I earned a Master of Science degree in crime scene investigation from the George Washington University in 2016.
Okay. And your primary job duties at the lab?
My primary job duties include processing evidence that's submitted to the lab and comparing latent prints to known impressions, and I'm also part of the crime scene response team.
Okay. In terms of the fingerprint piece of it, do you have specialized training?
Yes, I do.
And what does that consist of?
The training for the comparison of latent prints is an approximate 2-year training program, and it includes quizzes, readings, discussions with my trainer, practical exercises, and external trainings as well.
Okay. Is the lab that you're part of accredited?
Yes, it is.
How so?
It's accredited by ANAB, which is an acronym that stands for American National Science Institute National Accreditation Board.
Okay. And in terms of the fingerprint analysis that you do, is there something in place for quality review of your results?
Yes, there is.
And what is that?
We have some systems in place for quality review. We do technical and administrative reviews of all of the reports that go out, and we also have a verification process that we do.
Okay. And so every time you release a report, it gets verified?
Every time I release a report, it's technically and administratively reviewed.
Okay. All right, so tell us, what is a latent print?
A latent print is the chance reproduction of the friction-ridged skin. So the friction-ridged skin is the specialized skin that's on the palms of your hands and the fingers and the bottoms of your feet, and it's left behind when you touch an object.
Okay, and then how do you get that to analyze? How do you get it from a person's finger or whatever?
So typically when you touch an object, you may leave a latent print behind. So either the latent print is submitted to us as a lift, which means it was powdered and then lifted with tape, or it's submitted on an actual item of evidence, and we have processing techniques that we can use to develop the latent prints that are on the items.
Okay, and if you're doing a comparison, what do you compare that latent to?
The comparison is the latent to a known impression.
Okay, and where do you get the known impressions from, generally speaking?
Generally, so a known impression is an intentional recording of someone's friction-ridged skin, typically of their fingers or their palms. And usually we can get those fingerprint cards from AFIS, which is the Automatic Fingerprint Identification System. We can get the known impression cards from that.
Okay. All right, is there something called a comparison value?
Yes.
What is that?
Comparison value just means that there's sufficient information within the latent print that I can move forward to compare the latent print to a known impression.
Okay. And then the acronym, or the initials ACE-V, does that mean something to you?
Yes.
What is that?
ACE-V is the methodology used to compare latent prints. ACE-V is an acronym for Analysis, Comparison, Evaluation, and Verification.
And that's the process you use?
Yes.
And why do you use that process?
This is the process that we use to compare latent prints because we're analyzing and looking at the latent print before we ever look at the known. So the analysis is just taking in all of the information that's available within the latent print. We analyze it, document all of that information, and then in the comparison phase, we'll move to looking at the known impression. So we'll do a side-by-side comparison of the latent print and the known impression right next to each other. And then evaluation is just determining what my conclusion or opinion or the result will be. And then the V is for verification. So a second examiner comes behind me and does an independent examination of the latent print to the known impression.
Okay. And is ACE-V unique to the Michigan State Police?
No.
Who else uses it to your knowledge?
It's well used throughout the entire fingerprint discipline worldwide.
Do fingerprints change over time, or how are they generated, I guess is the question.
So you are born with your fingerprints. Your fingerprints form in utero. They are highly variable and discriminating, and they are persistent, which means they do not typically change over time unless some injury or scarring occurs.
And you said variable and discriminating. What does that mean?
Highly variable and discriminating just means that the friction ridge skin and the features within the friction ridge skin is variable between not only yourself but also people around you.
At this point, we would tender Ms. Isett, is that right? As an expert in fingerprint analysis.
We leave it in the discussion of the
I will so certify you guys.
Thank you. All right, so turning to this case, did you examine the tank 34 that's at issue in this case?
Yes, I did.
Okay, and tell us what you did.
So I received a telephone call on August 16th to process the tender tank. It was in the back parking lot of the Northville Forensic Laboratory. So I arrived and started processing around 7:30, 7:45 on August 16th. And I processed the exterior of the tank. Along with a coworker, we powdered the outside of the tank, and then I collected 4 stickers from the tank.
Okay, you said you powdered the tank. Certain section or the whole thing?
So I powdered the entirety of the tank except for the top portion because it was covered in like dust and dirt and debris, and that portion wasn't suitable for processing. So I only powdered the entirety of the like bottom portion exterior all the way around the tank.
And you mentioned something about stickers.
Yes.
What did you do with stickers?
So I collected the stickers from the tank. I took them off of the tank and packaged them and took them back to the lab to process them.
Okay, and do you know whether that was before or after Ms. Ponchke took the paint samples?
It was before she took the paint samples.
And I'm going to show you people's 262. Do you recognize this picture?
Yes, I do.
What is it?
It's what I refer to as the back end of the tender tank.
Okay, and why did you take this picture?
We typically do general overall photos of anything that we're processing for crime scenes. So we took multiple photos of the tank before we did anything to it.
Okay, and is this an example of the stickers that you took?
Yes, it is.
And do you know which one or both of those that you took?
I took both of those.
Okay.
I'm sorry. I took the bottom sticker, that ammonia sticker, and then on the other side of the tank, there were 2 stickers just like that, and I was able to remove the 2 stickers from the other side of the tank.
Okay. I'm going to show you what's been marked as, or what is people's 232. Detective Drewer, please. 232. If you could remove that, please.
Can I put my gloves on first?
Sure. Do you recognize that?
Yes, I do.
And what is it?
This is what I called LV1A ammonia sticker.
Okay, and do you know which one that is in relation to this picture?
It's the bottom one in the picture.
Okay. And so is this the tank with that removed?
Yes, it is.
Okay, and then the picture saying LV1A, is that what you're holding?
Yes, correct.
Okay. All right, so looking at the back side of that, well, first of all, on the front side, did you get anything from the front side?
No, I did not.
Okay. Did you do anything with the back side to try to get latent print?
Yes, I did.
What did you do?
I used a processing technique called black wet wop. And wet wop is just like a name brand for something that is a wet processing technique. It's basically just black powder suspended in a liquid. So I just took a paintbrush and I painted the black wet wop onto the sticker, and then I just rinsed it off with water. And the black wet wop adheres to any residue that's left behind from a latent print.
Okay, and did you get a latent print from doing that?
Yes, I did.
All right, and is it indicated in this photo?
Yes, it is.
Where in the photo?
I marked it on the actual sticker with the name of the latent print, which is LV1A-1, and it's right by the scale. That's also in the photo.
Okay. And it's on that sticker as well.
Yes, it is.
Could you just show it to the jury, please? Okay. All right, did you do anything at that point to help you in your analysis, once you had the latent?
So once I collected the latent print, I took a close-up photo of it. And so after I take my close-up photo, I put it into our software, like a digital asset management system, which keeps the chain of custody of all of our images and anything that's done to the image. And I pulled it up into Photoshop, and I used Photoshop to process the image. So I just did some contrast adjustments to visually enhance the ridges so that I could see them better.
Okay. And what is depicted here?
This is my processed image after I pulled it up into Photoshop.
Okay. Can you tell the jury, do you see the print in this picture?
Yes.
And how would they know which part is the print? Can you explain to the jury what to look for?
Oh, yes. So when I'm looking, so this part is the analysis part of the latent print. So I'm looking at the entire area of ridges that I see. So the ridges are those lines that you can see curving around. And so the first thing that I do is I annotate my image, which means I mark what I believe the latent print to be. So in this case, that arc, that blue arc at the top, I'm signifying that that is what we call the distal end of the finger, so this top end of the finger. And that's based on the curvature of the ridges.
Okay. Do you do anything else with that photo?
Yes, so here, again, this is my analysis. I'm taking into consideration all of the information. So this image is showing my quality map. So quality mapping just means that I'm looking for areas of the latent print and I'm marking them red or yellow. Red means I'm staying out of that area. It's not reliable. I can't see the ridges. I can't see the features that are within that area. I don't have any red markings in this particular latent print. Yellow just means that the ridges are a little bit less reliable. They're not as clear. I'm not sure what's going on in those particular areas.
And what about the part that's not marked at all?
Go ahead.
Sorry.
The part that isn't marked at all means it's clear. I can follow the ridge flow, so I can trace the ridges. I can see any features that are available in those clear areas.
Okay. And then what do you do?
After that, so this one is just showing my ridge tracing. So I'm literally just taking my mouse and I'm tracing each ridge that I'm seeing in that blue color. So I'm just following the ridges, and as I'm going, I'm marking my features, which is shown in the next one.
Okay.
So as I'm tracing the ridges, I'm marking the features or the minutia. So the minutia, I'm going to use these words interchangeably. The features are ridge endings or bifurcations, or something is happening within the ridges that I'm marking it. And so I'm using the dots to signify the features, and I'm using different color dots to signify different things. So the green dots mean I have high confidence that that feature exists right there. I'm marking it green. I'm saying, yes, this is here. I have another dot that is marked yellow up at the top. Yellow just means I'm a little less confident that that feature actually exists, mostly because it's on the edge of the latent print, and I'm not really sure if it actually is there, that location, if it's there, up there, if it might be a little bit lower, so I'm marking it yellow.
Okay, and is this, just for the jury's benefit, we're talking about right next to the dot, to the laser dot? Is that what you mean?
Yes.
That's the yellow, okay.
Mm-hmm.
And you mentioned ridges and bifurcation. Could we just make sure that, you saying that the blue are the ridges?
Yes.
Okay. And what is a bifurcation?
A bifurcation just means that you have one continuous ridge and it splits off into two. And that point where it splits off into two is the bifurcation and the feature.
Okay, and why is that important to you?
That's important because it's signifying something is happening in the formation of the ridges, that the ridges are splitting off, and that signifies a feature.
Okay, and are you going to look for similar features in the known print?
Yes.
Okay. Oops. Okay, and what is this?
So after I've completed my analysis of the latent print, I'm only looking at the latent print. I haven't looked at the known yet. I do all of my markup, my documentation of the latent print first. Then I will go and bring up the known impressions. And so the first thing I do when I'm doing my comparison, the side-by-side comparison, I'm picking a target group within my latent print. So that just means I'm picking a cluster of 3 or 4 of those dots or those features, and I'm trying to locate those 3 or 4 in the known impressions. So, for example, I think there was something, it looks like a longer ridge. I have 2 green minutia on each end, and then, and then like come down, skip one ridge, and then there's another one. So I'm focusing on those 3 as I'm going through, and I'm looking through all 10 fingers of the card. I'm searching for just that formation. When I find that formation, then that's when my comparison really starts. So I'm going from the latent to the known, and all I'm doing is I'm counting ridges to my next green dot or my feature, and I'm marking it in my latent. Yep, here it is. I'm going right to my known, counting up however many ridges. Yep, here it is in my known. And I'm just going like that back and forth, starting in my latent, counting however many ridges to my next feature. Then I'm going back into my known and doing the same thing.
Okay, great. Do you want to give her 232? Oh, is it? Oh, yep, 238, yes. Thank you. Yes. Okay, could you tell us what people's 238 is?
Yes, these are fingerprints, known fingerprint cards bearing the name Dale John Warner.
And are those the knowns that you compared?
Yes, they are.
Okay. So you said that you have the latent print and you've marked the features, and then, so you went through each of the prints on those cards and compared them, just an initial comparison?
Yes, when I'm doing my what we call it smart searching, which back again is this, I'm searching for that target group. So I'm going finger by finger and looking for that formation of those 3 minutia together.
Okay, and did you find one?
Yes, I did.
And what was it?
I found the correspondence in the left middle finger.
Okay, what did you do from that point then?
So I marked all of the available minutia or the features, the dots that are available in the known impression. And then once I reached my conclusion, I made an identification to the left middle finger.
Okay, so looking at the the right side, and it's got the, you can see part of an M and then IDDLE at the bottom left corner. What is that?
That's just the portion of the known fingerprint card. It says L dot middle for the left middle finger.
Okay, and so that's Dale Warner's left middle finger print.
Yes.
Okay. All right, and then how are you able to compare the known to the latent you got from the sticker off the tank? How did you compare the two?
The known to the latent.
Correct.
So I just, like I said before, I pulled them up in Photoshop and did a side by side, marking the minutia in the latent and the known impression.
Okay, so referring to the markings on the known print, can you explain the green and red and yellow here?
Yes. So all of the green minutia that are marked, or features that are marked in the known impression, were corresponding with those or similar to those in the latent print. I have a few orange dots that are marked. Those features that are marked do exist in the latent print. I just did not see them until I looked at the known, so I marked those in orange.
Okay. Are you saying that they are there or they aren't there between the two?
They are there.
Okay. You just didn't recognize them right away.
That's correct.
Okay. All right, and you've got, so is there just the two colors, green and orange?
Yes, marking my minutia or features.
Okay. And then the red circle, what is that?
The red circle shows that I had marked something in the latent print that it did not exist in the known impression, and so I crossed it out in the latent print because it wasn't actually there in the known impression.
And what is your opinion of the discrepancy?
So in the latent print, that area had like a bubble in the sticker, and the ridges were not flowing as like straight through. And I have it marked, I don't know if you can see it, but with like a teal colored, like a blue colored line. There was like a defect in that area. And so what I thought was a minutia actually was not a minutia or a feature.
So was that a difference in the two, or was it due to something else?
It was not a difference in the two. It was due to the distortion in the latent print, that bubbling area.
Okay. All right. And so you said, what was the result of your comparison?
My result was that it was Dale Warner's left middle finger.
Okay. All right. And you said that the ACE V, the V stands for verification. Did this go through the verification process?
Yes, it did.
All right. Thank you. That's all I have. Thank you.
Good morning, Miss Isett. My name is Marissa Vinsky. I represent Dale Warner. I have some questions for you. I want to start with, you talked about your process. One of the steps was you enhance the photo in Photoshop. Is that correct?
Yes.
What goes into enhancing the photo?
So in Photoshop, we use
I'm sorry. I just did exactly what Mr. McCready was worried about. I'm not as clean as this Chartier. My apologies.
I'm sorry.
No, that's okay. You hit it too well. Yeah. Do you mind if I?
You know what? That's good. I'm just putting that right
Okay,
here.
perfect. I will just leave it on the podium. That's awesome. Sorry again.
No more water for you, Mr. McKee.
My apologies. What goes into enhancing the photo?
So in Photoshop, we're only allowed to use certain tools within Photoshop, and we do contrast adjustments. So I'm making the picture brighter or darker, just to my eye, what I need to see in the latent print.
Is there a standard? Do you always do these steps to enhance, or what is just helpful to you?
What I typically do, it's different for every examiner. We do have a set of tools, like only a specific set of tools that we can use, because some of the tools that are available in Photoshop can erase pixels or change them, and so we're not allowed to use those tools. So I usually change my image to grayscale, which just means I'm turning it into black and white. And then I'm using like a brightness adjustment, and I'm just making it brighter or darker and like highlighting, changing things like that.
Are there other tools aside from the brightness and the darkness grayscale that you are allowed to use?
Yes.
What are those tools?
There's other tools we can use. They're called levels and curves, but I don't typically use those.
So in this case, you changed it into grayscale and then worked with the brightness and the darkness to help you best.
Yes.
You talked about various dots that we saw on the screen, red, yellow, orange, green. How many dots did you identify that were similar to the known print versus the latent print?
I believe I identified 7 green and then 3 orange.
Were there any points where it was maybe yellow or something you had to think about that you had to make a subjective opinion during your process?
So I did mark one of the features as yellow, but it was up higher in the latent print, and that area wasn't available in the known impression, so I didn't use that area that I had marked.
So that's something you subjectively thought, let me mark this and see what it is.
So in the latent print, so if there are 15 features available, I am required to mark them. So that is what I did. I marked 15 features in the latent print. The green and the yellow were the 15 that I had marked originally.
Is there a standard that the Michigan State Police uses for the number of dots?
We don't have a minimum like number standard to determine comparison value, but we use subjective decisions. It's not just based on the quantity of the features, it's based on the quality of the information within the latent print.
If you know, do other agencies have a standard number of dots?
Other agencies do, but I don't know what they are.
So summarizing, you said you notated 15 features. Is that accurate?
Yes, in my analysis.
And 7 of them were green.
That I used with the known impression.
Okay. After you compared the two, that's when you came up with the 7 green dots.
Yes.
You testified about 15 being how many you found. Is that the number you automatically stop at, or do you go above if there are more?
15 is the number that I stop at.
So going specifically to what you did with the tank, you testified that you processed the exterior of the tank. Is that correct?
Yes.
And you didn't find any latent prints?
No.
And then you took the ammonia sticker from the back end of the tank, what you classify as the back end.
Yes.
And did you also take a placard sticker that was towards that back end as well?
I took a portion of a placard sticker, yes.
Okay, Ms. Saylor, will you please pull up the government's exhibit 100, which is our page 105. Will you zoom into the end cap that's closer to number 34? The bottom sticker, is that the ammonia sticker that you removed from the tank?
I can't tell from this photo if it was that sticker on that end or the other end.
The other end, okay. I'll move on to the other picture that you were shown, but from this picture specifically, are you able to tell where you took the stickers from? If you could zoom out. Thank you.
Yes.
Okay, can you tell the jury where you took the stickers from?
So on one end of the tank, I took the bottom ammonia sticker, and then a portion of the green square sticker, that placard sticker. I was only able to get a small portion of it off. And then on the other end, I took the anhydrous sticker and the ammonia sticker.
So the green placard, is that the one that says 1005?
Yes.
And that's in the center of the tank?
Yes,
And these items were collected on August 16th, 2024?
that's correct.
The stickers that you took, I'm going to refer to them as the item numbers that you listed in your report. So, item LV1 there was 1A and 1B. So, item LV1A is the ammonia sticker that you took from what you call the back end of the tank, correct?
Correct.
And this is the end that's actually furthest away from the weld that is described as non-manufactured.
That's correct.
And then the placard, you said you took a portion, that was LV1B.
Yes.
And then the two stickers that you took from the side that was closest to the tank, or closest to the weld, excuse me, were LV2.
Yes.
And the item that you claim you were able to develop the latent print from, excuse me, was the ammonia sticker that's classified as LV1A.
Yes.
And again, just for clarification purposes, that was located on the end cap that was opposite of the non-manufactured weld,
That's correct.
and essentially the furthest end away from it.
Yes.
And in your report, I think you actually labeled the sticker not welded side. Is that accurate?
Yes.
Okay, thank you. I think I'm done with that picture for at the moment. There was one print that you claim you found on that sticker.
Yes, on the ammonia sticker.
Can you describe to the jury where on the sticker the print was? And if you want to use the exhibit that you have in front of you.
Just gonna put my gloves on again. The print was developed right here on the sticky side.
So just for the record, it's going to be on the opposite side of the A that starts ammonia. Is that accurate?
Correct.
Was it closer to the top of the sticker?
It's closer to the bottom of the
bottom.
sticker.
And then you determined that was from the left middle finger.
Correct.
Can you tell what direction the fingerprint is pointed?
Yes, I can.
Okay, can you describe that?
It's pointed. So I'm going to use my finger as it is. It's like this.
So for the record, I guess you would describe the tip of the fingerprint as pointing inwards from the edge of the sticker.
Yes.
And you don't know when that sticker was put on the tank, is that correct?
That's correct.
You did not find any prints on the stickers that were closest to the non-manufactured weld?
That's correct.
The presence of the latent prints, that does not indicate the significance of the contact or how long contact was on an item.
That's correct. I can only say that the finger came into contact with the sticky side of this sticker.
So to that point, it doesn't indicate a time frame of when the contact occurred.
No.
And you testified on direct exam about comparison results or classifications of comparison. Is that correct?
Can you describe classifications?
So I believe there's one that's identification. One, I can pull out the specific language. I believe there's 3 classifications. So from lab report number 9, there is identification, there's exclusion, there's inconclusive. Those are all different comparison results. Is that accurate?
That's correct.
When the comparison result is deemed identification, that does not mean that there is an exclusion of all other people, correct?
That's correct.
And then to other things you did, not only did you collect samples on the outside of the tank, but you also swabbed the inside of the tank.
That's correct.
These were collected on August 17th, so the next day after you took the stickers.
That's correct.
And you swabbed the center welded portion inside the tank?
Can I refer to my notes?
Yes. What are you looking at? Are you looking at lab? Just let me know.
I'm gonna look at the lab report.
Okay. What number?
I think it's 8.
Okay.
Yes, it's record number 8. So I swabbed the center welded portion on interior of the tank. I swabbed near the aftermarket weld on the interior of the tank, and I swabbed a horizontal bar on the interior of the tank.
And did you do this to collect DNA?
I swabbed those areas to preserve for the potential for DNA exam.
It's fair to say that if there's DNA inside the tank, that would help the investigation to determine who killed Miss Warner.
Sure.
It was important enough that you took swabs for safekeeping and preservation.
Yes.
Mr. Warner's DNA was not found in the tank.
I'm not sure.
Are you aware of anyone who tested the DNA?
No,
Mr. Warner's fingerprints were also not found in the tank. Is that accurate?
that's correct.
I have no further questions.
So when you were there processing the tank, did you make an independent decision on your own to swab the inside?
No, I did not.
Did you think at that time, or why didn't you want to do it yourself?
The interior of the tank was extremely rusted and very textured. So when I entered the tank, I was searching to see if I could process the inside of the tank for latent prints. And the interior of the tank was so rusted and textured that I did not process it for latent prints. And I was not going to swab for DNA preservation either.
Okay, for the same reason, because it was so rough?
Yes.
Okay, and so why did you if you didn't think it was worth doing?
It was at the request of the investigating officer.
And who is that?
At the time, it was Sergeant Drewier.
Right. And can you describe, what actually happened to the swabs when you were trying to collect?
Yes, so when I was swabbing the portions of the tank, the swabs were just coming apart because the surface was just so rough.
All right, thank you. Were some surfaces on the outside of the tank not suitable for latent prints?
Yes, the top portion of the tank was not.
Okay. Thank you.
I have no other questions from
We have received 2 questions from the jury. It's my understanding that the parties agree that one may be asked and the other not.
That's correct,
That's
Your Honor.
correct, yes.
Would rust inside the tank affect the ability to retrieve a latent print?
Yes, it would. Because the rust can degrade the surface of the latent print, the surface that the latent print would be able to come into contact with, the roughness of it doesn't allow for a latent print to be left behind.
Mr. McCready,
I have no follow-up.
Ms. Vincent?
No follow-up.
Okay. And may the witness be released from her speech?
Yes.
Yes, Your Honor.
Thank you. You are free to go.
Thank you.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, it is almost noon, so we're going to break for lunch. We'll be back at 1:30. During the trial, do not read, listen to, or watch any news reports about the case. Under the law, the evidence you consider to decide the case must meet certain standards. For example, witnesses must swear to tell the truth, and the lawyers must have the ability to cross-examine them. Because because news reports do not have to meet these standards, they could give you incorrect or misleading information that might unfairly favor one side. So to be fair to both sides, you must follow this instruction. Thank you. We'll see you at 1:30. Is there anything else you need to address on the record right now?
No, thank you.
Okay, thank you. We will be back at 1:30.